Hi there, it's me Finn, and tonight we're going to talk about something you've probably never really thought about before, how medieval peasants brushed their teeth, if they even did. Yep, it's one of those little details in history no one ever really talks about. We all know peasants in medieval times lived simple lives, farming, working, sleeping early. But what about the tiny everyday things, like, did they even care about their teeth? Did they clean them? With what? And how? You won't believe how much we actually do know about this. And yet, almost no one talks about it. Let's start by subscribing, and now, get comfortable, and let's drift into the quiet world of peasants, long, long ago. So, imagine this. It's early morning in a small English village in the 1300s. There's a quiet mist, curling along the thatched roofs of cottages made from wood, straw, and mud. The air smells faintly of fire smoke, and the earth still holds on to the dampness from last night's dew. Inside one of those little huts, a peasant named Osric stretches beneath a blanket made of rough wool. His bones ache, not from age, no, but from the heavy labor of the fields. His day is about to begin, but before stepping outside, he does something rather ordinary. He reaches beside his wooden bed and picks up a small bundle of chewed twigs. Twigs. Yes, they didn't have toothpaste, brushes, or rinses, but they had chewing sticks, mostly hazel, ash, or even willow, soft woods that didn't splinter too easily. Osric places the end in his mouth and starts to gently chew, back and forth, not too hard, just enough to fray the fibers into a little brush. This was his toothbrush. Simple, natural. It didn't clean like ours today, but it did something. You might wonder why he bothered at all. Well, peasants weren't as ignorant as people often assume. They knew teeth mattered. Rotten teeth hurt. A bad mouth made it hard to eat, and eating was life. So even without science or sugar, they still cared in their own quiet way. Now, Osric doesn't have minty toothpaste. Instead, he dips the twig into a small bowl made of clay. Inside is a mixture. Ashes from the hearth, crushed salt, and maybe even dried herbs. Thyme, sage, sometimes even charcoal from burnt rosemary. No big recipe, just whatever the household had left from cooking or medicine. He rubs it gently against his back molars, his teeth yellow, a little crooked, but mostly strong. Outside, the village is waking up. Roosters crow, children laugh faintly from the stream, and sheep bleat softly as they're led to pasture. People rise slowly, no alarms, no rush, just the rhythm of the day beginning again. In another home, just a few doors down, a woman named Edyth wakes from a shallow sleep. She reaches for a linen cloth. Not to clean her face, no, but to wipe her teeth. Some peasants believed wiping the teeth with old wine-soaked rags or vinegar could stop decay. They weren't entirely wrong. The acidity did kill bacteria. But it wasn't gentle. Many lost enamel without even knowing what enamel was. Still, Edyth wipes, carefully, quietly. She hums a hymn under her breath, a calming sound, one that fills the small room with warmth, even if the room itself is still cold. But not everyone had these habits. Many peasants, most even, didn't brush their teeth every day. Not because they didn't care, but because they were tired, so tired. Farming was endless, washing clothes was work, even boiling water was effort, and teeth were fine, until they weren't. And strangely, tooth decay wasn't as common as you'd think, because sugar, it was almost unknown. Only the rich had access to honey in large amounts, or imported cane sugar from distant lands. Peasants mostly ate pottage, a sort of stew, and coarse bread, grains, onions, leeks, root vegetables, all slow food. Their diets, while bland, weren't harmful to teeth the way ours can be. Osric's children, 3 of them, all under 10, don't brush at all. They chew on grass sometimes, or mint leaves when they find them. The youngest, a girl with a loose tooth, sticks her finger in her mouth and just pokes around. She's not afraid. Tooth loss was normal, expected, part of growing up. When a tooth fell out, they didn't have tooth fairies, but they sometimes buried it near the hearth, or tossed it into the fire, believing it would keep bad spirits from stealing it. A quiet superstition, sweet in its own way. By midday, the village buzzes with life. Men in the fields, women at the river washing clothes, children chasing chickens, or helping turn grain at the mill. But, let's pause a moment. There's an older man, Alric. He's missing most of his teeth. His smile, a wide gap, shows his gums more than anything. And yet, he laughs, loudly, happily. He's eating bread soaked in broth, soft food, because chewing hurts. But he's lived through winters, plagues, and 3 kings, so missing teeth doesn't slow him down. You might be wondering, did they ever visit a doctor, or a dentist? Oh no, not really. Barbers often doubled as dentists. Strange, but true. They cut hair, pulled teeth, and sometimes did bloodletting too. A peasant might walk for miles, just to have a rotten tooth yanked out with iron pliers. No medicine, no anesthetic, just a cloth to bite on, and someone to hold your arms. But they did it, because pain is louder than fear. Still, most avoided it. They used clove oil, if they had it, or simply endured the ache. Back in Osric's home, the sun begins to dip. He sits by the fire, his wife tending to a boiling pot of cabbage. She hands him a little bag made of fabric. Inside, powdered mint and fennel seeds. To chew, a natural breath freshener. Not brushing exactly, but still, something. He chews slowly, the fire crackling gently, and the scent of herbs filling the room like quiet memories. Outside, stars begin to show, and in the quiet, you begin to see, these peasants, poor as they were, still had rituals, habits, and in their own calm and careful way, they did try to take care of their teeth, not because of beauty, not because of smiles, but because life was hard enough already, and pain was something they couldn't afford. So chewing sticks, herb powders, vinegar rags, mint leaves, all little pieces of a bigger story. And that's just the beginning. Osric wakes up the next morning, but today, it's colder. The frost has crept in through the cracks of his wooden walls. The hearth is cold, the fire from the night now only a soft dust of grey ash. He pulls the wool blanket closer to his chest, and listens. The village is slower today. The birds haven't yet begun to chirp, and even the rooster sounds groggy. But there's a distant shuffle, footsteps on wet soil, and someone's goat bleating quietly, as it gets led out to the yard. Osric swings his legs from the bed. His feet touch the cold dirt floor. He groans softly. Not from pain, not really, just from years and years of the same rhythm. He reaches again for his little bundle of twigs. Yesterday's ends are dry now, frayed, used, so he breaks a fresh one from the hazel branch hanging near the door. It's smoother, a little green still, and it smells sweet. Chewing again, softly, carefully. Yep, the same little brush forms again at the end. He starts rubbing it along his back teeth. There's a little pressure, not pain, just the kind of deep, dull sensation that says, I've been doing this for a long, long time. Now across the village, a young boy named Alric is trying something different. His mother, she saved a bit of crushed salt from their meat barrel. She mixes it with a bit of cold water and barley ash. Not for cooking, no, for rinsing. Alric dips his fingers into the mix, then runs them over his teeth. He scrunches his nose. The salt burns a little, but his mother says it helps, keeps the bad spirits out of your mouth. You see, back then many believed in humors. Not humor like laughter, no, but bodily humors, fluids, black bile, yellow bile, blood, phlegm. And when one was out of balance, it meant sickness. Some thought mouth rot came from bad humors, escaping through the gums. Others blamed evil spirits, or curses, or, sometimes even cheese. Strange, but beliefs didn't need logic, just experience. In the monastery nearby, a good half-day's walk from the village, the monks kept better habits. Yes, those quiet robe-wrapped men, writing by candlelight. They copied books, including medical ones. Some monks like Brother Elred had learned Roman ideas of hygiene from old texts by Pliny Galen, and they sometimes washed their mouths with mint water, even rubbed crushed pepper on the gums. Pepper, strong, but warming. They believed it increased circulation and drew out the coldness from toothaches. But the peasants didn't know this, and even if they did, they wouldn't have had pepper. Still, they found their own ways, sometimes chewing a piece of soft cloth, other times, just ignoring the pain, because life didn't stop for a sore mouth. You still had to sow, reap, grind, bake, carry, and feed. Let's talk about their food again, because food was everything. They ate hard bread, really hard. It wasn't fluffy or soft like ours today. It was dense, dry, often left out for days, made from rye or barley, full of husks and bits of grain. They dipped it into stews just to soften it, and while that sounds tiring, it did help their teeth. How? Well, the coarseness helped scrape off some plaque, almost like a natural exfoliation, even if they didn't know what plaque was. Chewing that bread was like scrubbing their teeth with food, and their jaws, much stronger than ours. They developed wide dental arches, big molars. Maybe not pretty, but very useful. The body always adapts, even when the mind doesn't fully understand it. In some homes, the women passed down herbal remedies, old whispered recipes, things they learned from their mothers, and their mothers before them, a paste made from crushed sage and salt, rubbed on teeth, not every day, just when the gums looked red, or when a tooth felt loose, a rinse made of vinegar boiled with lavender, cooled, then spat into the fire. It wasn't about cleaning only, but cleansing, spiritually, symbolically. They believed bad breath meant sin inside the body, so cleaning the mouth, it wasn't just physical, it was moral, a way to stay pure. Back to Edyth. She's out gathering water from the well. It's cold, her fingers red from the icy bucket. She stops by a wild patch of herbs, mint and yarrow, plucks a few leaves, and chews them gently, not because she's hungry, but because her breath smells like onions and garlic from last night's stew. She doesn't know about bacteria or enzymes, but she knows how to be polite. And her friend Bertha, she keeps dried flowers in a pouch, marigolds and anise, not just for smell, but because chewing them freshened her breath and soothed her stomach. How sweet, isn't it? No toothbrush, no floss, but so much quiet care. Now, let's walk through the market. Once a week peasants trade goods here. A chicken for some grain, a sack of flour for a new pot. Among the booths, there's a man selling healing salts, a woman with bundles of herbs tied in string, and one old widow. She's holding out little cones of tree resin. You chew this, she says softly. Keeps the pain away. It's pine resin, sticky, bitter, but known to reduce inflammation. Some call it a poor man's gum. And it kind of was. They'd chew it for hours, not for fun, but for relief, or simply to pass the time. You see, even with so little, they found ways, always. Quiet ingenuity. As the years passed, Osric's teeth began to darken, not from decay, but from time. Stains from ale, from herbs, from the ash rubs. But they didn't care about whiteness. White teeth weren't a sign of beauty back then. In fact, some even believed pale teeth were unnatural, too white, and you might be accused of sorcery, or vanity. Yellowish, strong teeth, those were normal, expected, honest. And there's something comforting in that, isn't there? No pressure to be perfect, just functional. And toothaches, they happened. Oh, they did. When someone complained of throbbing pain, they didn't take pills. They'd press hot cloths to the side of their face, sleep on one side only, drink warm beer mixed with cloves or sage, or, in very bad cases, they tie a string around the tooth, tie the other end to a door, and slam it. Yes, even peasants had tricks. Scary, maybe, but effective, and better than waiting for the pain to turn into fever, or worse. And in the still of night, the fire low, families sat in silence, children gnawing on soft bark, women cleaning their teeth with fingers wrapped in linen. Nothing loud, nothing grand, just a quiet respect for the body, for health. And yet, these practices weren't talked about much. No one wrote them down in detail, because they didn't seem important at the time. Just part of life, daily, mundane, invisible. But that's why they matter, because it shows even in the poorest corners of medieval Europe, there was thought, effort, calm little rituals, even without science or modern comfort. Osric spits out a twig end near the door. His youngest son picks it up, tries to copy him, chews, spits, laughs. Maybe not the best technique, but, it's a start. That's how habits pass down, isn't it? From small quiet moments, unspoken, unexplained, but remembered. And tonight, just like the one before, he'll rinse with warm water, chew fennel, and fall asleep by the fire, teeth worn, but still there, still useful, still his. The moon was thinner tonight, a gentle sliver behind clouds, like a secret half-smile above the village. The wind rustled through the trees, slow and patient, like it was reading a lullaby aloud. And inside the thatched cottages, most were asleep, but Bertha, the old healer, she was still awake, not worried, not busy, just humming softly, turning the coals in her little hearth, watching how the glow danced across the wooden beams. She was waiting for her herbal brew to cool down, not for drinking, No, this one was for rinsing. She had made it the same way for years. A little thyme, boiled with crushed myrrh resin, a bit of white wine, if there was any left, and a spoonful of honey. Why honey? Not just for taste. Honey, was considered a miracle by many. It healed wounds, soothed burns, and for the mouth, it softened gums, wrapped pain in sweetness. Bertha sipped a little of the mixture, swirled it slowly in her mouth, then spat it into the fire. The hiss echoed softly, and the room filled with the sharp sweet scent of the herbs. It was a small ritual, one passed to her from her mother, and her mother before that, and while others might laugh, call it superstition, for Bertha, it was peace, a moment to listen to her own breath, to be quiet in her bones. Now, across the path, young Alric had lost a tooth today. It had been loose for weeks, swinging like a little gate with every bite, and today, after biting into cold turnip, it popped out. No fuss, just a gasp, and a bit of red on his tongue. He held it in his palm, staring. It was smooth, tiny, strange. His sister told him to throw it into the fire. Why? Because if the mice found it, they'd steal it, and curse him with crooked teeth. A silly tale, or maybe not. In many villages, it was believed that rodents carried secrets, and if they got your tooth, they could pass its pain to others. So Alric tossed it into the fire, watched it crackle and vanish, and then, he smiled, because now, he was growing. Let's talk now, about the tools, or rather, the lack of them. You see, peasants didn't have toothbrushes, not like ours. They had twigs, cloth, bones, even feathers. Feathers, yes, goose feathers, split down the middle, used to pick at meat stuck between the teeth. Not very strong, but soft, and precise. Some even used the hard tips of oat stalks. They called them tooth straws, and after eating barley stew or chewy cheese, they gently poked the space between their teeth. There was something almost relaxing about it. Not fast, not rushed, just focused. There was a kind of art to it. Peasants learned to feel their own mouths. They noticed when a molar throbbed, when gums swelled, and they adjusted. A sore gum, they'd chew soft bread soaked in milk. A chipped tooth, they'd avoid that side for days. A breath too sour, a mint leaf tucked behind the lip. No dentists, no mirrors, just instinct, repetition, and quiet observation. In a strange way, their hygiene was more personal than ours. They didn't follow schedules, they followed sensations. Now, sometimes during festivals, a traveling tinker or merchant would pass through the village, and once in a while, very rare, one of them carried powders, tooth powders, ground chalk, burnt boned, crushed eggshells mixed with salt. They'd offer it in little cloth pouches, just a pinch a day, rubbed with a finger or a cloth. It stung, made mouths dry, but it worked. One woman named Ellsworth used it only on holy days. To feel clean before God, she'd press the powder along her teeth and gums, rinse with river water, then whisper a prayer. The blend of physical and spiritual again. That strange medieval dance, between body and belief. There's a record, not many, but one, of a manor steward, who insisted all servants chew parsley after dinner. He believed the green herb of peace, that's what he called it, kept illness away. Whether it did or not, it became a custom, a quiet ritual after meals. The children copied the grown-ups, and the habit stuck. That's how many hygiene routines began. Not with science, not with rules, but with imitation. You do what others do, especially if they look healthier than you. And then, there were the barbers. Yes, barbers. They didn't just cut hair. They pulled teeth, not gently, not safely, but quickly. You'd sit in a stool, hold a cloth, close your eyes. They'd grip with iron pliers, twist once, and pray. Sometimes the tooth shattered, other times, it came out whole. And afterward, the wound was packed with wool dipped in vinegar. You bit down hard, bled a little, then walked home, in pain, but relieved. It sounds harsh now, but to them, it was normal, a part of life. Let's return to Osric. He's older now, his beard is white, but he still chews his twigs, still boils his mint, still hums after supper. Tonight, he's sitting by the fire, sharpening a bit of elderwood, not for cleaning, for teaching. His grandson is watching, eyes wide, mouth open, one front tooth missing. Osric shows him how to chew the stick gently, not too hard, not too fast, and then he tells the boy,
If you take care of what's inside, your food will always be kind. Simple words, but meaningful. That's how knowledge survived. Not from books, but from stories, from sitting together, from sharing twigs by firelight.
Across the seasons, winter turned to spring, and with it came changes. In springtime, herbs were fresh again, the streams flowed faster, people rinsed more, and the smells of rot, they faded. There's something about clean water and sunlight that makes even toothaches seem smaller. Children ran barefoot, laughed with green leaves stuck in their teeth. And every now and then, an old woman would stop one and say, "Here, chew this." A new plant, a different leaf, a test. Some were bitter, some sweet, some made the tongue tingle, but each one a lesson. Let's take a moment and think about this. No plastic, no packaging, no brands, no charts. And yet, these people managed. Their teeth weren't always perfect, but many kept them long into old age. Why? Maybe because they ate less sugar, no candies, no sodas, no processed treats. Their sweets came from apples, from dried berries, from honey, and even that was rare. They drank beer more than water, but it was weak beer, mild, almost like bread in liquid form. So, maybe their teeth had a chance to survive. There's an odd comfort in how raw it all was. No dental anxiety, no appointments. If something hurt, you paid attention. If something stank, you fixed it. Not with products, but with plants, with rinses, with little daily acts. Chewing twigs, plucking herbs, gargling salt water before bed. Quiet, repetitive, gentle, just like sleep itself. And now, let's wander into the chapel. Once a week, peasants gathered here to listen, to kneel, to breathe incense. Some believed that mouth pain came from sin, so they whispered confessions of envy, of pride, and afterwards they drank holy water. Some thought it purified the spirit, others, the mouth. The line between body and soul was very thin back then. You didn't brush to feel fresh, you brushed to feel forgiven. And isn't there something lovely in that? A world where even cleaning your teeth had meaning, symbolism, depth, where rituals were slow, not because people were lazy, but because there was no rush. Everything was slow. And now, as the fire burns low once again, Bertha places her wooden cup beside her bed, wipes her mouth with a corner of cloth, closes her eyes. She's old now, her gums ache sometimes, but she still has most of her teeth. That's something. She smiles, not wide, just enough. And in that quiet room, there's peace, not perfection, not whiteness, just health, in its oldest form. No one speaks of it, no one writes of it, but there between sleep and memory, it lingers. The smell of mint, the scratch of wood, the hush of rinsing beside a fire. A world that never had toothbrushes, but always knew how to care. The sky was soft and grey. A quiet drizzle tapped the roof of the thatched hut, like gentle fingers playing a lullaby on wood and straw. Inside, the air smelled of damp earth and time. Bertha was not feeling well tonight. She sat on her stool, eyes closed, head leaning against the wall. Her breath came slow, and her mouth was dry. She hadn't eaten much that day, only some barley bread and broth. Even chewing had become tiring. Her teeth still ached, but she didn't complain. No, because in her mind, this was the rhythm of life. Teeth grow, they help you, they fade. Nearby, little Hilda watched her grandmother. She was only 5, but curious. She'd seen Bertha clean her teeth with a little twig before bed, saw how she chewed it gently, then rubbed her gums with cloth dipped in warm water. Tonight, Bertha held the twig but did not move. She was just still. So Hilda tiptoed over, took the other end of the twig, and mimicked the motion she'd seen so many times before. Her tiny hand moved in small circles, wiping, brushing, cleaning, just like Grandma. Soft giggle, then silence again. Let's talk about something different now. Let's talk about decay. Yes. It's not the nicest word, but it was part of their world. Peasants didn't know about plaque or bacteria. They used words like rot, or toothworm. Yes, toothworm. They believed that pain in the teeth came from tiny worms inside them, wriggling, biting, chewing from the inside out. It sounds silly now, but back then it made sense. Pain came with no warning, and when they looked inside the mouth, sometimes they saw black holes, or dark lines. Worms? Sure, that's what it looked like, so they tried to chase them out. Some used garlic, others, smoked henbane, a plant that numbed the pain but also made people dizzy. They'd blow the smoke into the mouth, then rinse with cold ale, and wait, did it work? Maybe, maybe not, but they believed in it, and sometimes, belief is half the cure. Other times, people prayed. They lit candles to Saint Apollonia, the patron of toothache sufferers. She was said to have had all her teeth pulled out during persecution, and so people believed she understood their pain. You'd see small wooden carvings of her near beds, tiny wax offerings shaped like teeth, placed at the altar in hope. In some villages, on cold nights you'd hear someone whisper, "Saint Apollonia, take this pain from me. I'll leave bread on your altar." Not science, but solace. Let's look into the kitchens now. Yes, peasants had kitchens, of sorts. Open hearth, clay pots, wooden spoons, and always, something boiling. Stew, porridge, herb tea. You see, many foods were soft, boiled for hours, stirred till they were smooth. Because broken teeth, aching mouths, they made chewing hard, so the food changed. Instead of crusty bread, mash. Instead of raw roots, soup. Instead of meat, marrow stewed till tender. Osric, remember him? He had lost a molar last spring. Now he avoided anything too hard. He'd cut his apples into thin slices, dip his bread in broth before eating. He used to laugh and say, "My mouth's not what it used to be, but it still remembers flavor." Such wisdom in that. Not sadness, just adaptation. And let's talk about spit. Yes. An odd thing to mention, but important. Spit, or saliva, was considered sacred in a way. Some healers believed that morning spit could cure infections, that rubbing your own spit on a wound could seal the hurt. In some places, it was used to clean a baby's mouth after breastfeeding. Gentle, warm, natural, no chemicals, just trust in the body. People respected their spit. They knew it was part of their healing. And then, there were the smells. Oh yes, peasants paid attention to the smell of their mouths, not because of vanity, but because smell meant something. A bitter smell, maybe sickness, a sweet one, maybe fever, a foul stench, maybe decay, so they rinsed, not just for comfort, but for warning. A mug of warm ale, a pinch of salt, a leaf of sage, swish swish spit. They watched the color, felt the sting, listened to the change in taste. A ritual, like reading tea leaves, but with your own breath. The village healer, not always a woman by the way, sometimes taught children this early. Know your spit, he'd say. If it tastes like copper, lie down. If it smells like sour milk, eat more root. Primitive, maybe, but also intuitive. By summer, people spent more time outdoors. They chewed on long grass stems, sucked the sweetness from clover flowers. Some said clover cleaned the tongue, others just liked the taste. Children would smile with green teeth, not from mold, but from joy. And when the day ended, they'd rinse with stream water, splash their mouths, shake their heads like little dogs. Happiness in the simplest things. And now, back to Bertha. She's awake again. The pain has dulled. She boils a bit of meadow sweet, known for its numbing powers, crushes it, wraps it in cloth, bites down gently. Her jaw relaxes. She sighs, not a sad sigh, a peaceful one, because she knows, she has done this all before. Tooth care in those times wasn't about whiteness, or straightness, or gleaming smiles. It was about function. Can you chew? Can you speak? Can you sleep without pain? Then your teeth are fine. And that simplicity, that acceptance, is oddly beautiful. In the evening the entire family would sit by the fire, chewing twigs, picking with feathers, swirling warm ale. It wasn't strange, it wasn't shameful, it was normal. Children learned early, and the elderly taught with love. A boy would show his sister how to use a goose quill. A mother would press salt into a cloth, and gently rub her daughter's back teeth. No rush, no pressure, just care. Do you feel the quiet of that world? No buzzing electric toothbrush, no sudden lights, just the sound of water boiling, the smell of herbs, the rustle of wood. That's what this story is about. Not about what they didn't have, but how they used what they did. A simple pot, a worn cloth, a twig, a prayer, and through these, they found peace, even with pain, even with loss, because they accepted what the body does. They flowed with it, not against it. As we near the end of this quiet evening, let's remember one more thing. Many of the methods peasants used, they still exist. Chewing sticks are used in parts of the world today. Salt rinses, herbal pastes, oil pulling, all born from ancient wisdom. from people like Bertha, Osric, Ellsworth. They didn't invent hygiene, they inherited it, and passed it along, with soft voices and gentle hands. The wind was softer tonight, not the howling kind that shook shutters, but the whispering kind, the kind that tiptoes over fields, slides under doors, and hums through the cracks in old stone walls. Osric heard it as he leaned against the barn post. Just listening. The animals were still, the fire inside the house crackled quietly. He had finished his evening routine, not with soap or a shiny mirror, but with what mattered most, the willow twig, the warm water, and the careful motion, round and round, as if he were rubbing away the day's burdens from his teeth. Let's go deeper now. Let's think about the morning mouths, the first breath peasants took after sleep. It wasn't sweet, no, not after a night of breathing by the fire, mouth open, air thick with smoke, but that breath was part of the morning, just like feeding the chickens or stoking the coals. Sometimes, Bertha would wake up, and before stretching her arms, she'd run her tongue along her teeth, tasting sleep, and if it felt thick, she'd chew a mint leaf, or rinse her mouth with warm ale and spit it into the ashes. Soft sizzle, quiet fizz, and then, silence again. That was her version of mouthwash. What about children? Let's wander to the school barn, where a few lucky children learned their letters. Before lessons, some would be given a sprig of thyme to chew, not for learning, but because old Sister Aldwin believed it cleared the tongue. Curious, no, that a nun, nearly blind, would place so much importance on the freshness of a child's breath. But it wasn't about beauty, or judgment, it was about presence, she said. Clean mouth, clear mind. And maybe she was right. In the warmer months, people began using something else, charcoal. Yes, that black dust from the fire. It might surprise you, but even peasants knew that rubbing teeth with ash cleaned away the yellow film. Of course, not just any ash, they preferred ash from birch bark or hazel wood. Soft, fine, bitter, mixed with a drop of spit, it became a paste. Spread on a rag, then rubbed gently back and forth, slowly without pressure. Not everyone liked the taste, but oh, the smooth feel it left behind. Imagine the scene, a woman with a basket of herbs by her side, kneeling by the hearth, dipping her cloth in warm birch ash, and humming softly as she brushed her back molars. Sounds like a lullaby, doesn't it? Now, the issue of teeth falling out. It happened, often, especially to older peasants, and they didn't panic. They accepted it. They believed in the rhythm of life. Hair turns white, skin folds, teeth drop like autumn leaves, and when a tooth fell out, it was saved, wrapped in cloth, buried under a tree, or thrown into the fire, with a whispered wish. One common phrase was, "As this burns, so may the pain go too." And yes, sometimes, teeth were swallowed. That's a strange one, isn't it? But when a loose tooth came out during a meal, in porridge or stew, it was easy to miss, and they believed that swallowing it meant the new one would grow stronger. A little superstition, a little comfort. Now let's drift into the homes of the very old. Like Edwin, who no longer had any teeth left. He gummed his food, mushed every meal, and still, smiled more than most. People said he had the warmest breath in the village. Not sweet, not bitter, just familiar, like wood smoke and meadow honey. You see, bad breath wasn't a shameful thing back then. It was a message, the body speaking, and the clever ones listened. If your breath smelled of iron, too much blood, rest. If it smelled like sour milk, eat fennel, and drink goat broth. So many little remedies. Fennel seeds chewed slowly, clove buds boiled into tea, sage soaked in ale, and sometimes, a twist of dried orange peel, if they had it, which was rare. But oh, the ones who had orange peels, they were special. And the village healer, he was always experimenting. A paste made of crushed ivy, a rinse made from rainwater and mint. He once tried adding goose fat to ash paste. Did it work? Not really, but they respected him, because he tried. And then, there was the market wisdom. You'd hear it between stalls, as women haggled over onions, and old men drank spiced cider. Boil nettles if your gums bleed. Never brush before sunset. Only rinse when the moon is low. Some of it nonsense, some of it gold, and the only way to know was to listen, try, taste, feel. Now let's visit the monastery. Quiet, stone, sacred. Monks there kept strict routines, and yes, some even cared for their teeth. They had herbal gardens, clean water, tiny clay pots of oil and salt. They used thin linen cloth, wrapped around a twig, dipped in clove oil,
One monk named Father Theodoric believed in brushing after prayer. He said, "As we clean the soul, so too the mouth," and he taught the children who came to the monastery to brush not in haste, but with thought, one stroke for every sin, one rinse for every word unspoken. Not just hygiene, a meditation. The records show monks had fewer tooth infections, not because they were better, but because they had time to brush, to rinse, to rest. And oh, that's something we forget now. We rush. They slowed. The peasant's brush wasn't a brush. It was a moment, a ritual, a rhythm, fingers in warm water, cloth against gum, mint leaf on the tongue, slow, gentle, daily. Nothing fancy, but still, so very human. Even in times of grief, they kept their routines. A widow would still boil her herb water, still chew her twig, still offer thanks for the teeth that let her speak her sorrow. The teeth of the dead, often buried with them, but sometimes, a child would keep a father's tooth, not as decoration, but as memory, worn in a pouch, touched during prayer, a reminder that he once laughed, once sang, once chewed barley and honey on feast days. And oh, the feast days, when bread was sweetened, apples roasted, cheese soft and warm, that was the true test of teeth. If you could eat the feast, you had survived the year. And they laughed through the ache, rubbed clove on their gums, and danced with meat between their molars. Because pain was part of joy, and teeth were part of the story. Even when they broke, even when they bled, they were still yours, and that was enough. Let's rest here a moment. You've traveled far through soft words and older ways. Feel the slowness of that world, the rhythm of their lives, the calm acceptance of discomfort. They didn't fear every ache. They folded it into their days, like a wrinkle in cloth, or a pebble in the road. The sky above the village darkened, but not the kind of darkness that frightens. No storms, no threats, just that soft velvet kind. When the blue fades into a deep hush, and the air cools just enough to kiss your skin. The peasants knew it well, that evening stillness, when everyone's done brushing their teeth in their own little way, and now they sit on stones, on hay bales, on the wooden edge of a cart, just breathing, just being. Edwin sat with his back against the tree. His gums hurt less today, maybe because Bertha gave him that mugwort tea again. She always believed in it, even if it tasted like boiled leather. He didn't mind, his breath was fresher, and he liked the warmth of it in his chest. Around the corner the miller's daughter, she was only 9, but already had a gap-toothed smile that could make anyone grin. She brushed her teeth with parsley that night, found some growing by the stream. She chewed it carefully, then spat into the grass, like she'd seen the healer do. Her brother teased her, but then did it too because that's how traditions pass on, not by rules, but by watching and repeating. Let's think for a moment about those folk beliefs. They said if a person brushed their teeth before sunrise, their words would carry more truth that day. If they didn't, well, nothing too bad, just maybe they'd bite their tongue while eating. They also said, never brush on a full moon, because your teeth would fall out sooner. Of course, no one really knew why, but some folks never risked it. What's lovely is how brushing teeth wasn't just cleaning to them. It was a small offering to health, to habit, to the gods, to each other. They didn't separate care of the mouth from care of the self. One peasant woman once said to a traveler, "If I don't wash my mouth, how can I speak blessings?" That's the power of belief. Even without science, even without mirrors, they still understood something we forget, that the body needs tending, gently, regularly. In the manor house, Lady Marian, though richer than the rest, often borrowed remedies from her servants. She liked the willow root bristle, she liked the way she said it felt like it remembered your teeth. Imagine that, a brush that remembers you. She once asked the healer, what makes a smile stay clean, and he replied, kindness in the belly, warm water on the lips. She didn't forget that, neither did we. And what about the days when no brushing happened at all, when the rain fell too hard, or grief was too heavy, or they were simply too tired? They didn't blame themselves, they picked up the next day. No guilt, just continuation, just like we should. One curious tradition, in some villages, they whispered a little chant while brushing, salt for strength, leaf for breath, ash for bones, and peace for death, not to frighten, but to comfort, to remind themselves that they cared for this body, until it no longer needed care. There's beauty in that, isn't there? That even without dentists, without tubes of paste or buzzing brushes. They had ritual, they had intention, they had moments of stillness, with twigs between their fingers, and warm breath on a winter's night. Even when they feared the black rot, even when a molar cracked in their stew, they still believed there was something good about the trying. One peasant boy once told a passing friar, "My teeth are crooked but they still chew." And that says so much, not just about teeth, but about life. Now, let's step back, let the fire die down, let the barn grow quiet. The peasants are sleeping, some with mint on their pillows, some with aches in their jaws, some with dreams of apples and honey bread. Their teeth, some clean, some not, rest quietly in their mouths, like little stones, hidden, silent, but holding stories just the same. And the breath of the village, gentle, unhurried, blows through open windows, soft as a lullaby. If you are still awake, then I think you have to see the video from 17th minute of the story, or play this side video as may it can help you sleep better. Goodbye.